Welcome to the AI for Career Success video overview by Curt Robbins. We're experts at AI coaching and helping professionals like you and your employees upskill in AI. Today, we're going to be digging into the critical insights from an article by Timothy Cook titled AI is Quietly Colonizing How You Think. This piece was featured in Psychology Today on March 17, 2026, and it raises some really serious questions about our relationship with these powerful new tools. Cook starts with a feeling that I'm sure is familiar to many of us who use AI. You give it a rough idea, and it comes back with this perfectly worded, beautifully structured response. And that feeling is validation. You feel like, yes, it gets me. But then Cook asks this really sharp question. Did the AI actually capture your thought? Or did it just give you a very plausible version that you simply agreed with? And that question brings us to the absolute core of his argument. It's this critical difference he draws between the act of approving an AI's output and the much more difficult human process of true authorship. Let's break that down. Origination, that's the hard work, right? It's creating something new from scratch through synthesis and insight. Recognition, on the other hand, is much less demanding. It's more like auditing. The AI gives you a statistically likely answer, and your job is just to approve it. Cook's whole point is that we're starting to mistake the easy feeling of recognition for the tough, rigorous work of actual creation. And this is the essential takeaway here. That feeling of I wrote this that you get when you approve an AI's text, well, Cook argues that's a cognitive illusion. One is the act of creation, the other is just verification. And confusing the two has some pretty significant long-term consequences for the way we think. So this isn't just about who gets credit for writing a paragraph. Cook argues it goes much, much deeper into what he calls the colonization of thought. The real concern isn't just that AI is writing for us, it's that it's systematically changing how we think, even when we're not using it. He has a term for this phenomenon, internalized homogenization. What it really means is that our own cognitive baseline is slowly being retrained. After thousands and thousands of interactions, our internal sense of what sounds right starts to unconsciously mimic the AI's statistical patterns. And the tricky part is, we don't even notice it's happening. You can see how this creates a really powerful, compounding feedback loop. You give the AI a rough idea, it gives you back a polished version, and your brain logs that as the correct, or at least a very good way to express that idea. So the next time you have a similar thought, you're already leaning towards the AI structure. It just keeps reinforcing itself. Okay, so what happens when this process scales up across an entire profession or even an entire industry? To really illustrate this, Cook walks us through a very compelling thought experiment. Imagine, maybe 20 years ago, you gave the same complex business problem to 50 top-tier consultants. What would you get back? Well, you'd likely get 50 very different analyses, right? A huge variance in approaches, mental models, and frameworks. Now, let's fast forward to today. Those same 50 consultants are all using the same few foundational AI models. Cook predicts you'd see a remarkable convergence of ideas. The average quality of the reports might even go up. But that diversity of thought, that intellectual variance, would collapse into a much narrower range of outcomes. And that points to the real danger. While we might be raising the average quality of our analysis, we risk squeezing out the unconventional, outlier perspectives. And if you look at history, it's those non-standard outlier ideas that often lead to the biggest breakthroughs and the most valuable innovations. Now, the natural objection here is, okay, but surely a true expert would be immune to this, right? They know their stuff. But Cook's analysis suggests a paradox. In fact, expertise might actually create its own unique vulnerability. He calls this the expert fallacy. The idea is that the very mechanism that makes you an expert, that finely tuned gut feeling for what's correct in your field, that becomes the main pathway for the AI's influence. Here's how it works. An expert looks at an AI's output, and it feels right based on all their years of experience, so they approve it. What they might not realize, though, is that their own sense of what feels right has been gradually shaped over time by the AI itself. They think they're independently verifying the machine's work, but they're actually checking it against a standard that the machine helped to create. This entire line of thinking brings us to a really fundamental and, frankly, pretty unsettling question about our own cognitive autonomy as we move forward in this age of AI. Cook leaves us with a question that every single professional using these tools really has to ask themselves. Is this thought that I'm having right now truly my own, Or have my patterns of reasoning been so subtly shaped by my tools that I can no longer tell the difference between their conditioning and my own original insight? So, what are the crucial takeaways from Cook's analysis? First, we have to maintain a very clear line between approving an idea and actually authoring one. Second, we need to be aware that using AI is not a neutral act. It is actively training your own cognitive patterns. Third, we have to protect and value that intellectual variance because that's where innovation comes from. And finally, remember that expertise isn't a shield. In some ways, it might even be a vulnerability. Thank you for watching. This is where we teach you AI and help you get smarter than your competition. If you like these videos, use the QR code at the beginning of this video to buy us a coffee or hire us to coach you or your employees in AI. We encourage you to subscribe to the AI for Career Success YouTube channel. Please like, comment, and share this overview to help us reach a wider audience of professionals.